You're not lazy. You're just stuck at the starting line. Every single day you wake up with intentions. You know what needs to be done. You see the tasks waiting for you, but something invisible holds you back. You scroll through your phone instead. You reorganize your desk, you make another cup of coffee. Anything except starting the real work. And at the end of the day, you feel that familiar weight of disappointment, not because you lack ability, but because you never began. Here's what nobody tells you about procrastination. The problem isn't the size of the task. It's not about laziness or weakness. The real problem is the gap between thinking and doing, that invisible barrier that separates intention from action. Your brain sees a big project and immediately floods your system with resistance. It calculates all the effort required and decides that staying comfortable is safer than stepping into uncertainty. But what if I told you the entire battle happens in just 2 minutes? What if everything you've been avoiding could be conquered not by finishing, but simply by starting? There's a system that changes everything. It's called the 2-minute rule, and it's not about completing tasks in 2 minutes. It's about weaponizing the single most powerful moment in any project, the beginning. If this resonates with you, hit that like button right now. And subscribe, because this channel exists to give you real systems that destroy procrastination and build the life you actually want. No fluff, just frameworks that work. Most people misunderstand how the mind works. They think motivation comes first, then action follows. They wait for the perfect moment, the right energy, the ideal conditions, but that's backwards. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. And the 2-minute rule is the key that unlocks this truth. When you commit to just 2 minutes, something profound happens. Your brain stops resisting because the threat disappears. 2 minutes feels manageable, safe, almost laughably small. But here's the secret. Those 2 minutes are never just 2 minutes. They're the doorway to momentum. They're the spark that starts the engine. Once you're in motion, staying in motion becomes automatic. The resistance that felt insurmountable before starting vanishes the moment you take the first step. This isn't theory. This is how your brain actually functions. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why you procrastinate, how to eliminate the activation barrier, and how to build a system that makes starting inevitable. You'll learn 5 complete frameworks that transform you from someone who thinks about doing to someone who does. No willpower required, no motivation needed, just a simple system that works every single time. The person you want to become is waiting on the other side of starting, and starting begins with 2 minutes. Your brain treats starting as the biggest threat to your comfort. Every time you think about beginning a task, your mind runs a calculation. It measures the distance between where you are right now and where the completed task exists, and that distance triggers fear. Not the dramatic kind of fear you feel in danger, but a subtle, paralyzing resistance that keeps you frozen. This is the activation barrier, and it's the reason you can spend hours thinking about a task without ever touching it. The activation barrier is invisible, but incredibly powerful. It's the psychological wall that stands between intention and execution. When you look at your to-do list and feel that heavy sensation in your chest, that's the barrier activating. When you tell yourself you'll start after one more video, that's the barrier winning. Your brain is designed to conserve energy, and starting something new requires energy. So your mind generates excuses, distractions, and doubts to keep you in the safe zone of inaction. Here's what makes this barrier so dangerous. It doesn't care about the actual difficulty of the task. You can feel the same resistance to answering an email as you do to writing an entire report. The barrier isn't measuring effort, it's measuring change. Any movement from your current state to a different state gets flagged as a potential threat. This is why you can feel exhausted just thinking about working out, even though the workout itself would energize you. Most people make a critical mistake when facing this barrier. They try to overcome it with motivation. They watch inspiring videos, read quotes, imagine their future success. They attempt to build up enough emotional energy to break through the wall, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes based on mood, circumstances, and 1,000 other factors you can't control. Relying on motivation is like trying to drive a car that only starts when you feel excited about your destination. The solution isn't to break through the barrier with force. The solution is to lower the barrier until it disappears, and you lower it by shrinking your commitment to something so small that your brain doesn't register it as a threat. Instead of committing to write the entire essay, you commit to writing for exactly 2 minutes. Instead of committing to a full workout, you commit to putting on your gym clothes and stepping outside. The task remains the same, but the psychological weight vanishes. This is where the 2-minute rule reveals its power. When you tell yourself you only need to do something for 2 minutes, you remove the pressure of completion. Your brain relaxes because there's an exit. You're not trapping yourself in hours of effort. You're just dipping your toe in the water, and that permission to stop makes starting feel safe. The barrier lowers, the resistance fades, and suddenly, beginning doesn't feel like such a monumental decision, but you need to set this up correctly. Remove every piece of friction between you and that first action. If you want to write, keep your laptop open to the document. If you want to exercise, put your shoes by the bed. If you want to read, place the book on your pillow. Make the starting step so ridiculously easy that refusing feels harder than doing. Every second of setup time is another opportunity for your brain to generate resistance. Eliminate those seconds. When you finally start, focus only on the act of starting. Don't think about finishing. Don't picture the end result. Don't calculate how much is left. Just exist in those first 2 minutes. Let yourself be present in the beginning without the weight of everything that comes after. Because here's the truth that changes everything. The resistance isn't to the work itself, it's to the transition from nothing to something. And once you cross that transition, once you're in motion, the barrier disappears behind you. You're no longer trying to start, you're already moving. And moving is infinitely easier than starting. Starting isn't just about completing that one task in front of you. It's about accessing something far more powerful. Momentum. Momentum is the hidden force that separates people who accomplish things from people who stay stuck. When you're in motion, continuing feels natural. When you're still, moving feels impossible. This isn't about motivation or discipline. This is physics applied to human behavior. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest. And you are the object. Your brain operates in 2 distinct modes. There's the default mode, where you're scrolling, browsing, thinking about doing things but never actually doing them. And there's execution mode, where you're locked into action and distractions fade into the background. The problem is that switching between these modes requires enormous energy. It's like trying to push a car from a standstill. The first push is brutal, but once the car is rolling, keeping it moving takes almost no effort at all. The 2-minute rule is how you push the car into motion. But here's what most people miss. The momentum you create in those 2 minutes doesn't stop when the timer runs out. Your brain shifts gears. It moves from resistance mode into execution mode. And once you're in execution mode, your entire psychology changes. Tasks that felt overwhelming 2 minutes ago now feel manageable. Work that seemed impossible now seems obvious. This shift is everything. Think about the last time you finally started something you'd been avoiding for days. Remember how different it felt. Once you were actually doing it, the dread disappeared. The task wasn't as hard as your mind made it seem. You probably even wondered why you waited so long. That's momentum at work. The anticipation is always worse than the execution. Always. But you can't access that truth until you're already moving. Here's the mistake that kills momentum before it starts. People set timers. They commit to 2 minutes. Then they actually stop at 2 minutes because they think keeping that promise builds self-trust. They believe that honoring the limit proves to their brain that starting is safe. But this completely misses the point. You're not trying to build trust with your 2-minute commitment. You're trying to hijack your brain's natural momentum systems. And stopping at 2 minutes wastes the most valuable thing you just created. When you use the 2-minute rule correctly, you never set an actual timer. The 2 minutes is a psychological tool to lower the activation barrier, not a genuine limit you enforce. You tell yourself it's only 2 minutes to make starting feel safe. But once you start, you let momentum decide what happens next. If you naturally want to continue, you continue. If you hit genuine resistance or fatigue, you stop. But you never artificially create a stopping point. Most of the time you'll keep going. Not because you forced yourself, but because continuing became easier than stopping. Your brain is already engaged. The activation barrier is behind you. The friction is gone. So you ride the wave. You keep writing. You keep working out. You keep studying. And 20 minutes later, sometimes an hour later, you look up and realize you just completed something you'd been avoiding all week. Not through willpower, through momentum. This is how you multiply the power of 2 minutes into sustained productivity. You use the small commitment to bypass resistance, Then you let natural momentum carry you as far as it wants to go. Some days you'll work for 10 minutes and stop. Other days you'll enter a flow state and work for 2 hours. Both outcomes are victories because both required the same starting point. The difference is you stopped trying to control the process and started trusting momentum. When you feel yourself naturally continuing past 2 minutes, don't acknowledge it. Don't celebrate yet. Don't break the spell by becoming conscious of your progress. Just keep moving. Let the momentum build without interference. Because the moment you start thinking about how well you're doing, you risk pulling yourself out of execution mode and back into observation mode. And observation mode is where resistance lives. Not all tasks are created equal. Some things genuinely take time. Writing a thesis takes months. Building a business takes years. Learning a new language takes consistent effort over long periods. You can't finish these massive undertakings in 2 minutes. But here's what you can do. You can start them in 2 minutes. The problem is that most people don't know how to break down large tasks into startable pieces. They look at the mountain and see only the summit, never the first step. This is where the 2-minute rule fails for most people. They try to apply it to vague, undefined tasks. They sit down and tell themselves they'll work on their project for 2 minutes. But what does that actually mean? Their brain doesn't know, so it defaults to the easiest possible interpretation: research, planning, organizing, anything that feels like progress without requiring real effort. And 2 minutes later, they've accomplished nothing except giving themselves permission to stop. The task itself isn't the problem. The lack of specificity is the problem. Your brain can't start a category. It can only start an action. When you say you're going to work on your business, that's a category. When you say you're going to write the first paragraph of your website's about page, that's an action. One is abstract and overwhelming. The other is concrete and manageable. This distinction determines whether the 2-minute rule works or wastes your time. Here's how to break down any task correctly. Define the exact starting action, not the general area of work, but the precise first move. If you need to study, don't commit to studying biology. Commit to opening your textbook to page 47 and reading the first 2 paragraphs. If you need to clean your house, don't commit to cleaning. Commit to picking up 5 items from your living room floor. Make the action so specific that someone with no context could execute it immediately. The test for specificity is simple. Could you hand this task to a stranger and have them start within 5 seconds? If the answer is no, you haven't broken it down enough. If you need to explain, clarify, or provide context, the task is still too vague. Keep breaking it down until the starting action is so clear that hesitation becomes impossible. This level of clarity eliminates the mental processing time where resistance breeds. Once you complete that first micro-action, immediately identify the next one. Don't stop and think about what to do next. Don't evaluate your progress. Don't check your phone. Chain the actions together. Write the first sentence, then immediately commit to writing the second sentence. Read the first 2 paragraphs, then immediately commit to highlighting 3 key terms. Keep the momentum alive by always knowing exactly what comes next. This is how you turn 2 minutes into 30 minutes into 2 hours without ever feeling like you're forcing yourself. The beauty of this system is that you're never working on the whole project. You're always working on one small manageable piece. Your brain never gets the chance to feel overwhelmed because it's not looking at the mountain anymore. It's looking at the single step in front of you. And every step you take makes the next step more obvious. You build momentum not just in action, but in clarity. The path reveals itself as you walk it. Large projects fail because people try to hold the entire structure in their mind at once. They try to see every step before taking the first one. They want certainty before they begin. But that's not how progress works. Progress is built through sequential clarity. You see the first step clearly, so you take it. That reveals the second step clearly enough to take it. And the pattern continues until you look back and realize you've climbed halfway up the mountain without ever feeling the weight of the full climb. This is the power of breaking tasks down into starting points. You're not trying to finish. You're not even trying to make significant progress. You're just trying to make the next 2 minutes so obvious that beginning feels inevitable. And when beginning feels inevitable, procrastination becomes impossible. Here's where the 2-minute rule stops being a trick and becomes transformation. Most people use it as a temporary strategy, a way to manipulate themselves into action when they're feeling resistant. But the real power isn't in what it makes you do today. It's in what it makes you become over time. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to be. And every time you start something within 2 minutes of thinking about it, you're voting for a new identity. You're not trying to become disciplined. You're proving that you already are, 2 minutes at a time. This distinction matters more than anything else in this entire system. When you see yourself as someone who is trying to change, you're operating from a place of lack. You're admitting that discipline is something you don't have, something you're chasing, something that exists outside of you. But when you see yourself as someone who starts immediately, you're operating from identity. And identity drives behavior far more powerfully than goals ever could. Think about how you act in areas where your identity is already established. If you identify as a clean person, you don't need motivation to put dishes in the sink. You just do it because that's what clean people do. If you identify as someone who reads, you don't need to force yourself to pick up books. It happens naturally because it's part of who you are. The behavior flows from the identity without resistance. This is the state you're building toward with every 2-minute start. Most people judge themselves by completion. They start the workout, but only do 15 minutes, so they label it a failure. They write for 2 minutes but don't finish the chapter, so it doesn't count. They clean one room but not the whole house, so they feel like they fell short. This mindset is destroying your progress. It's teaching your brain that starting isn't enough, that effort doesn't matter unless it produces complete results, and that makes every future start feel heavier. The identity shift requires redefining what success means. Success is not finishing. Success is starting. The person you're becoming is someone who begins immediately when something needs to be done. Finishing is just what happens when you start enough times. But finishing is never the measure of your character. Starting is. And every time you honor the commitment to begin, even for 2 minutes, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who takes action instead of someone who thinks about taking action. Track your starts, not your completions. Keep a simple tally somewhere visible. Every time you apply the 2-minute rule, mark it down. Don't track what you finished. Don't measure output. Just count the number of times you started when you could have delayed. 20 starts this week, you're becoming consistent. 30 starts, you're becoming unstoppable. The number proves to you that you're changing, not because you're trying harder, but because you're becoming someone different. Use identity language when you talk to yourself. This is critical. Don't say you're trying to write more. Say you're a writer who shows up. Don't say you're working on being healthier. Say you're someone who moves their body daily. Don't say you're attempting to build discipline. Say you're a person who starts immediately. Your brain listens to the labels you use. It shapes itself around the story you tell. And when you consistently label yourself as someone who takes action, your behavior aligns with that label without conscious effort. After 30 days of 2-minute starts, something profound happens. You stop needing the rule. Starting stops feeling like a decision and starts feeling like a reflex. You don't debate whether to begin. You don't negotiate with yourself. You just move. Because that's what you do now. That's who you are. The identity has solidified. And once identity solidifies, behavior becomes automatic. You've moved beyond systems and strategies into something far more powerful. You've changed at the level of self-concept. You're no longer someone who struggles to start. You're someone who starts. And that version of you doesn't need tricks or rules. That version of you just acts. The final piece of this system is the most important. Because even with everything you've learned, there will still be moments when you resist. Your brain will still generate excuses. You'll still feel that pull toward comfort, toward delay, toward one more scroll before you begin. This is normal. This is human. But what separates people who transform their lives from people who stay stuck isn't the absence of resistance. It's the ability to recognize resistance the moment it appears and move anyway. Resistance is sophisticated. It doesn't announce itself as fear or laziness. It disguises itself as reasonable thinking. It tells you that you're too tired right now, that you'll have more energy later. It suggests that you need to plan more before you start. It reminds you of other tasks that suddenly feel more urgent. It makes delay feel logical, even responsible. And if you don't learn to recognize these thoughts for what they are, you'll spend your entire life listening to them. Here's what nobody teaches you about motivation. You don't need to feel motivated to start. You don't need to feel energized, inspired, or ready. Those feelings are pleasant when they show up, but they're completely unnecessary for action. High performers don't wait for the right feeling. They've trained themselves to move regardless of how they feel. They understand that action creates motivation, not the other way around. But to reach that level, you first need to stop believing the stories your resistance tells you. The most dangerous belief is that you'll do it later when you feel more ready. This is resistance winning, while convincing you that you're being strategic. There is no later where you feel more ready. Later, you'll have the same resistance with a different excuse. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The ideal conditions won't arrive. You will never wake up one day and find that starting has become easy. The only way forward is to start now, in this moment, with whatever you're feeling. Label resistance the instant you notice it. This is the first and most powerful step. When the thought appears that you should wait, that you should do something else first, that you're not ready yet, say out loud, "That's resistance." Don't judge it. Don't fight it. Don't try to argue with it. Just name it. Bring it into the light. Because resistance loses most of its power the moment you see it clearly. As long as it operates in the shadows, disguised as rational thought, it controls you. But once you identify it, it becomes just another feeling passing through. Use the 5-second countdown when you recognize resistance. This is a physical interrupt pattern. When you catch yourself about to delay, count backwards from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then move your body immediately. Stand up. Walk toward the task. Open the document. Put on your shoes. Physical movement breaks the mental loop that resistance creates. Your brain can't maintain the excuse while your body is already moving toward action. The countdown gives you just enough structure to bypass the hesitation. Accept that resistance will never disappear completely. This isn't something you cure or overcome once and for all. You don't graduate from feeling resistance. High performers feel it constantly. The difference is they've changed their relationship with it. They've stopped seeing resistance as a signal to stop and started seeing it as a signal to begin. When you feel that familiar pull toward delay, you can actually smile, because you know what it means. It means you're close to something that matters. It means growth is available on the other side of this moment. Resistance appears most strongly before meaningful work. It's rare before scrolling through social media. It doesn't show up before watching another video. It emerges when you're about to do something that could change you, challenge you, or move you forward. So when you feel it intensely, that's actually confirmation that you're pointed in the right direction. The work that scares you is the work that transforms you, and the 2-minute rule is how you step into that work before your brain can build up enough excuses to stop you. You're not using the rule to avoid resistance. You're using it to make resistance irrelevant, because 2 minutes is too small a commitment for resistance to justify its existence. And by the time resistance realizes what happened, you're already in motion, already building momentum, already becoming the person who starts instead of the person who waits. Let's bring everything together. You've learned 5 complete systems today that transform how you approach any task. The activation barrier system showed you that the wall between thinking and doing isn't as solid as it feels. The barrier exists in your mind, not in reality, and you lower it by shrinking your commitment to 2 minutes. The momentum multiplication system taught you that starting creates its own energy. Motion generates more motion. Once you're moving, continuing becomes the path of least resistance. The task breakdown system gave you the framework to make any project startable. You don't need to see the entire path. You just need to see the next 2 minutes clearly enough to begin. The identity shift system revealed the deeper truth. You're not building habits. You're building a new version of yourself. Someone who starts immediately. Someone who doesn't negotiate with delay. And the resistance recognition system armed you with the awareness to see excuses for what they are and move anyway. These aren't theories you study. These are tools you use. But tools sit useless in the garage until someone picks them up and builds something. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. You can watch 100 videos about productivity and stay exactly where you are. Or you can take one system and actually apply it today, right now. In the next 2 minutes, here's your 7-day challenge. For the next 7 days, pick one task you've been avoiding. It doesn't matter how big or small. Just one thing that you know needs to be done, but you keep pushing to tomorrow. Every single day for 7 days, commit to starting that task for exactly 2 minutes. Not finishing it, not making massive progress, just starting. 2 minutes. If you stop after 2 minutes, that's fine. If you keep going, that's fine too. The only rule is that you start. Write your task in the comments right now. Make it public. Make it real. Say it out loud to this community. Because the moment you commit externally, something shifts internally. You've created accountability. You've turned an intention into a declaration. And declarations have power that thoughts never possess. Day 1 will feel like an experiment. Day 2 will feel easier. By day 3, you'll notice the resistance starting to fade. Day 7 won't feel like a challenge anymore. It will feel like who you are now. Someone who starts. And once you've proven to yourself that you can do this with one task, you can do it with everything. The gym, the project, the dream you've been delaying. All of it becomes accessible through the same doorway. 2 minutes of courage. If you found value in this video, hit that like button right now. It helps more people discover these systems. And subscribe to this channel because we're building something here. A community of people who are done waiting for permission, done waiting for motivation, done waiting for the perfect moment. We're the ones who start. No fluff, no empty motivation, just real systems that produce real change. The next video is going to show you exactly how to protect your momentum once you build it. Because starting is only half the battle. The other half is defending your progress from the distractions and interruptions that try to pull you back into old patterns. You're going to learn the focus protection system that keeps you locked in even when everything around you demands your attention. But that's next. Right now you have a choice. You can close this video and go back to scrolling, or you can pick one task and start it in the next 2 minutes. The person you're becoming is waiting on the other side of that decision, and that person starts now.